Welcome to the May installment of Community Focus, presented by the Friends of MCTV. I'm your host, John McPeak. Every month, this program features news about upcoming activities in the Greater Midland area. This month, our guests include folks from Little Forks Conservancy and the Midland Community Orchestra. Joining us today to lead off our program is Andrea Foster, the Community Programs Manager at Little Forks Conservancy. Welcome to Community Focus.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good. Andrea, tell us about Nature Nurture. That's your new program at Little Forks Conservancy.
Yes, so Nature Nurture is an environmental education program that we started to really fill gaps in the community. We work primarily with underserved youth, and those are programs ran at alternative high schools, places like that. And so we found a lot of times there's not enough funding for environmental education for the high school age range. And so we can kind of pick up where the Nature Center leaves off as far as environmental education for the youth in our community.
And the programs themselves are, what's the focus? What's the nature, if you will, of the programs?
Yeah, so it really depends. It's a set programming schedule. So we start with things like Stewardship 101, what is conservation. We talk about jobs you could get within the conservation world. We talk about different types of habitat, invasive species, native species, how those are managed. We also get outdoors as much as humanly possible, whatever the weather is. So if it's nice out, we'll go hiking. I've even been able to take some students kayaking before, and just really give them experiences that they may not have had growing up or that may not be available to them currently.
So the title of it, Nature Nurture, this is creating awareness of nature in everyday life and the things that they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, absolutely. I find that nature is a very healing environment, and a lot of students grew up with screens. They didn't learn to go outside to blow off steam, and there's really a great aspect, especially when we incorporate things like mindfulness practices outdoors, that can really help teach them new ways to solve problems, new ways to kind of get out of their head, or if they're having a rough day, taking a walk might be the best way to handle that. So we talk about that. We also focus a lot on service projects and serving the community, how to be a part of your community. And so I think that also comes with the nurturing aspect as well, because once you're a part of your community, you're really engaged and involved, and you can care more.
So some examples of the projects, the service projects that you have done.
Yeah, so a lot of them have been based on our preserves, because we have the ease of transportation already set up there. So we've had students create bluebird boxes and bluebird houses, and we've put those out on our preserves, and then as part of ongoing years we go out and we check them, we clean them, we see how they're doing, what species might be living in there, and identify them. We've done trail cleanups. We've gone out to Stratford Woods even, so we'll partner with parks every once in a while and make sure we're cleaning up other spaces that aren't just Little Fork spaces. But the cool thing with that is it also teaches the students to bring a bag with them wherever they go, so they can take trash out and start taking care of it.
Each of these programs are separate, and each location is a separate program.
Yes.
And then at the end of each of the programs, you have a service project. Is that unique to the students that are in the program, the venues that you've been visiting?
Yeah, so it kind of depends. Each school has the program run a little bit differently within them. So the overall themes that we teach and discuss are the same, but depending on, for instance, I'm in Clare Pioneers, so we may go to completely different areas to work than we would if we were in town here. So with Clare Pioneers this year, they'll be making rain barrels for their greenhouse they have on site at the school. But if we're talking about ASA, for instance, our second-year students are taking care of and building a new vegetable garden. They're kind of revitalizing it there on site. And so sometimes these ideas are, coached a little bit with our help, or most recently the students come up with them. So I'll just come in and have kind of a visioning session with them and say, what's important to you? What do you think we could be doing in your community? What are the needs? Do you want to do it here? Do you want to do it on our preserves? And we just kind of let them guide that, and then they execute the work.
Now, these programs have been in place, some of these have been in place for some time now. What are some of the outcomes that you can share with us?
Well, there's all kinds of really great stories from things that these students have learned. Outcomes can be measured with surveys, which we do have a before and after survey that we give, and we're still gathering data for that. But we've been with the schools for 2 years. Some of the schools for 2 years. So the first two I started were ASA and Windover. And then we're also in the Juvenile Care Center, and we are in the Clare Pioneers. So that's out in Clare. And some of the outcomes have just been really something small. A student telling me, you know, I had a bad day, but I went for a walk in the woods and it was a lot better. I learned to really take care of my emotions and think about where I was at before I did anything stupid. It could be the Juvenile Care Center, for instance. There was, a little bit last year, some people might remember, there was a missing tortoise that had been released out at Stratford Park. And so we went out that week and we looked for the missing tortoise. But what really happened is the students remembered to bring the bags, and they brought bags and bags of trash back. And I didn't ask them to do that. That was not my idea, but they thought about it first. And I thought that was a really neat story of how this program can help teach kids how to think a little bit more about our environment.
Now, the Little Forks Conservancy, you have support from other organizations for your program?
We do. So all kinds of great organizations. We've had the Midland Area Community Foundation has a MICYAC program, which is a youth action council, and they were just absolutely wonderful. They awarded us $10,000, and with that I was able to purchase snowshoes for my students, and we were able to get binoculars, compasses, money for those service projects, so we can say, hey, if you need $100 in plants, we can go get those with this money, and that's been able to help us a lot. It also does this really cool thing. Ace Hardware is a phenomenal partner. Dan Bazell is the manager there, and he and I were talking one day at Leadership Midland, and he asked what I would give these kids if I could give them anything. And I said I'd really like each of them to have a backpack, and in that backpack I want everything they need for a day trip in the woods. I want them to have everything that they would need just to grab and go and have a day so they can get out of their heads. And Dan said, great, and then he did it. So he gave me 60 backpacks for my students that year. And so into that grant with the Youth Action Council, we were able to say, you know, you can help pay 50% of these backpacks for the next 2 years. And Dan was able to use the rest for match. So he's a really great partner. Little Forks Outfitters is a wonderful partner. We have something called a gear library that we've started where students can come use the winter gear if they don't have any and come check out the snowshoes and go use those. And so Little Forks Outfitters was really detrimental in helping get donations from companies like Smartwool. And we've also got Ike's Mobile Kayaks. So Glenn Eisenhart from Ike's Mobile Kayaks is a wonderful person. He has helped us be able to take these students out on their first kayak trips. And so that's something we were just able to do this past summer, and we have 2 more coming up this summer.
Now, what does the program cost both for the individuals and the supporting organizations?
Well, the beauty of this is that we built it to cost nothing. So I don't charge the schools unless they are out of our, you know, a little further out. So for instance, Clare Pioneers only pays for my mileage for 8 to 10 visits. Otherwise, it doesn't cost anything. I'm able to bring this to all the other schools free of charge. Now, supplies aren't free, obviously, and so that's where grants come in. But we've also had a lot of wonderful, wonderful people in the community, and at least 2 individuals out of state that have donated personally because they believe in the cause. So if someone, say, donates $1,000, that's 1 kayak trip for 17 students and 4 service projects. Or it could be more backpacks for these kids. And so it's a lot of it is about giving them the experiences that we can, and we have just been so blessed by people who've been personally touched within their hearts to give to us to be able to offer those experiences.
You said it's in your, you're in your second year, finishing your second year. Do any of the students in this year were in a first year, or is it a continuation program, or is it sort of a one and done at this point?
Actually, so almost all the students have really helped retain that. They've stayed with us, I should say. So each school is a little bit different. Some schools run this like a club, so it's a little more optional. Some schools build this into their curriculum, so I can come in and teach and maybe reach more kids than would have originally chosen to be a part of this. So depending on the way it's run, that depends on how I do it the next year. So for instance, at ASA, I have a really great group of students that I worked with last year. Towards the end of last year, they had the opportunity to work with me to do the service project, and those kids decided to come back the next year. And so they get to have a little bit more of a say in what happens, what they do,
Sure.
what they learn, and they get to take more of the responsibilities on for these service projects. So
So an individual needs to be in one of these schools or part of an organization that's already established. It is not a matter of joining a club just to be part of this.
correct, it's only within the schools that we offer it to.
So how can other organizations, local organizations, help with your program? Donations?
Yeah, it really depends on what those organizations may feel they have to offer. If you're an organization that does trips out to places, you could talk to me about that. But in general, donations are the best way to go because we already have a lot of wonderful partners that can help us offer these experiences. And the more opportunities we can give students to get out, the more we can help provide transportation for them, the more they can connect with the outdoors and use that for the rest of their lives.
And this program is pretty much exclusively yours. Do you have, if you are parapros, do you have people that help you out with the programs, or is it, or could you use someone like that, or is it pretty much a one-person thrust at this point?
Well, we kind of built it to be run by me, which is wonderful. It's all during the school day, so it's often hard for people to volunteer during that time, and a lot of it's built so they don't have to. So we are starting to be able to include our board members and people already involved with the organization, but for now it's kind of a one-woman show, and it works really well that way. If folks are interested in volunteering, we have so many wonderful opportunities we'd love to get them out for. We have a lot of trail work that can be done, lots of invasive species management and control, and these are also things we're teaching those students so folks can get an idea of what's going into the schools and into their minds. But we're happy to do those with individuals outside of the schools.
Now, where can folks get more information about Nature Nurture program and the Little Forks Conservancy?
Well, we have two fantastic websites. If you go to www.littleforks.org, you can find all kinds of information about us. We have 5 preserves that are open to the public year-round, and all kinds of really great opportunities with volunteering and news. And then as an offshoot of that site, you can also go to naturenurture.littleforks.org, and you can learn all about the program specifically. There's a really great video. It's about 6 minutes long, but it tells you everything you need to know, and you can learn a lot more about what we're up to.
Well, Andrea, thank you for appearing on Community Focus and bringing us up to date on your Nature Nurture program, the Little Forks Conservancy.
Yeah, absolutely.
In our next segment, we will learn about the spring concert of the Midland Community Orchestra.